might come to that, but I want to quickly go to John, and then I'll go back to Bruno and then Karen. John, why should we trust you as a blogger?
You should trust me as a blogger because unlike a journalist, and definitely I'm with Sonny on this one, I'm definitely not a journalist. I've actually worked, and I've got a page on my blog which says this, that I'm very clear about my views, and I've worked in different bodies relating to European politics. Yeah? I've worked as a parliamentary researcher for the European Parliament, I've worked for the UK Civil Service doing EU policy making. I train people how the European Union institutions exist, and I state that on my blog and say that is my experience. Equally, over the course of the 5 years of blogging of 1,300 posts or something, it's been pretty factually accurate. When it's not been, you can comment on it. If there is a comment, if there's something that is wrong, then I'll happily go in and correct those stories. Now, I've done everything I can, to make that clear, be explicit at what point of view I'm coming from. It's been adequately effective to mean that people who disagree with me will still at least read it because they at least see that it's consistent, although they might say it's wrong, but that's fair enough if it's consistent. So I've gone as far as I possibly can, and then it's up to a reader to determine whether that's to be trustworthy or not. But over those 5 years, it's been more factually accurate than pretty much any mainstream British newspaper on covering the EU, but it's not been as complete as those newspapers, because I'm under no obligation to cover everything. I only write about stuff which I have some area of knowledge and things which kind of catch my attention.
Okay, Bruno, then go.
I think that so you probably are a journalist if it's how you make a living. Journalism is a trade. It doesn't mean that all people who write and publish are journalists, but if you make your money from writing and publishing, you're pretty certainly a journalist. If people want to understand more about what journalism is and isn't, they should read Andrew Marr's excellent book, My Trade, which explores some of these discussions.
Andrew Marr, of course, was very rude about bloggers recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the man's entitled to his opinions, of course. Working for one of the most negative aspects of working for a newspaper is actually having to deal with the complaints. It may surprise people to know that every time some insane nutcase sends a kind of green ink email to our letters page, then usually the reporter nowadays has to deal with it. I recently gone through a PCC complaint which the newspaper gave up on. Amazingly time consuming. I've been the object, we've faxed through legal writs a few times to do with particularly conservative MEPs, it seems, who hire extremely expensive lawyers. And it's amazingly time consuming. Please do not think that certainly on broadsheet newspapers that complaints aren't taken very seriously. They are. The reason why a lot of them are ignored is because they're usually wrong on the particulars, and they are, at the end of the day, down to a matter of opinion. I recently had a very time-consuming complaint from the Commission. It was wrong on the particulars, and it was really a matter, legitimate, but a matter of opinion. The problem with the accountability of newspapers is really how people view newspapers. I think people are generally dissatisfied with newspapers at the moment. That's part of the discussion. One of the things I love about blogs is the comments. I was just saying this, but I always read the comments along with an article, and I think that's a fascinating development in terms of the kind of the leap forward then that Liberal Conspiracy does, or even the Telegraph blogs page, where you have very widely read blogs with huge audiences, and you sometimes get a genuine debate from outside of trolling and all the rest of it goes on. You sometimes do get a genuine debate, and I think that is absolutely fascinating. I don't think it means that people writing in that medium are any more accurate or any more honest or any more saintly, but the comments are certainly very, very interesting in that regard.
Did you want to say that?
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't?
No, they shouldn't. People shouldn't necessarily trust anything they read from anybody, by anybody, under whichever headline, whichever trade stamp, name stamp, whatever. Of course they shouldn't. They should use their own judgment. Otherwise, what's the point of having judgment? It It seemed a dark question.
Right.
I'm not sure it's a daft question,
No?
but the concept of trust in any media environment at the moment gets more and more complicated, and it's vital to work out the ways and means of who you can and cannot trust, and that gets harder and harder as the years go by.
To be fair, with John's performance and behaviour in correcting and proving himself to be worthy of trust, which he has done, it goes as far as to chase down anybody who might have linked to him and made the same category area he has made and informed them that he's made a mistake, so therefore you can change your own blog, which I've had to do on a couple of occasions. So he doesn't just hold himself to account, he holds other people to account. So, which is extremely useful and very valuable and should be encouraged as a way forward.
But can I just say, I mean, look, there is, I think it's almost naive to expect that there is going to be any form of, there's no form of truth in the blogosphere. So you have this situation where right-wing bloggers will say something and will be completely at odds with left-wing bloggers, and someone is wrong, but neither will admit it. And neither necessarily even needs to. I mean, for example, we get a lot of, as Bruce said, we get a lot of comments, and comments are fantastic, and a lot of times, if enough people complain, then we do have to change, we do change the article, because those readers are, that's why the blog keeps going. And so, I mean, I'll give you a good example. There was the whole EU, banned dozen eggs sort of thing. Ian Dale refused to basically amend his blog, even though the evidence was quite clearly there that it was wrong, it was rubbish, it was a rubbish story. And he did some sort of a half-hearted retraction later on, but it's a bit like the Fox News syndrome. If enough people believe you as a trusted source, they're just going to think that everyone else is lying when they're trying to get to you, when they're trying to point out what the truth is. So, actually judgment is much more important than people think, because these days you've got this, people will just go to the kind of people that they like to believe in, and therefore will just say, well, he says it's true, therefore it must be true, and these people who are nasty left-wing socialists, they're just talking out of their asses, and therefore we should not agree with them, and vice versa. So it's kind of a, standards and all this kind of stuff. Actually, I think it's becoming rather irrelevant now.
Okay, well, I want to change the topic of conversation a little bit. John, we hear a lot of talk about creating an EU public sphere. What is the, if we're plugging away, we've heard that's the advice for what we have to do to build this EU blogosphere. What's the ultimate goal? What are we actually trying to build?
Yeah, exactly. Good question.
Okay, well, congratulations for being the first of kind of touching on Habermas here, which tends to come from these sorts of discussions about European Union related things. I don't know altogether what we are overall trying to create, and I don't try to kind of ask myself that in too much of a kind of a profound manner. What I do hope, and that's what kind of keeps me going and keeps me motivated to keep on writing these sorts of things, is to try to make the EU a bit more digestible, a bit better to understand, to see that motivations of individual players in the game are important, that those motivations are just as important in EU policy as they are in EU politics as they are in any other national politics. I think we often come to this sort of thing about, do we need some kind of European Union demos, which is often discussed on panels like this. I think what we need to show is that European Union politics is accountable and relevant, if at all possible, just as we understand that regional and local politics as well as national politics can be important and relevant. But I don't ask myself the question, I don't have any kind of big grand scheme. Right. I just sort of see that blogging works, I see the European Union needs to work, I have maybe some of the useful skills in tech and have played a small tiny role in that. So I don't have any grand scheme of where this is all going, I'm afraid.
Okay, well I'm going to open it up to the audience a little bit. I just want to go down the panel with the same question.